This is guided practice number 5, and we're going to take a look at the first problem here. Number 1, Janie took a flight to Disney World with her family. The first third of the flight, Janie stayed in her seat, then switched with her brother Jack. Then they switched back. The time she spent in her own seat at the end of the flight was 1/5 of the time she spent in Jack's seat. If the flight was 1 hour and 57 minutes long, how long did she spend in her own seat? Include both times. Okay. So again, this is one where we've got some kind of trip, some kind of duration, and it's being divided up into sections. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to draw a picture. Okay, so here's where she started. Here's the beginning of the flight, and here's the end. So beginning and the end. And I'm going to draw a little line to represent our trip. And we know that she starts in her own seat. So for the first third of the flight, so I'm going to divide it into 3 sections. So a third is about here. So here she's in her own seat. Then, so 1/3 of the way she switches. So switch. Let's see. Then they switched back. And we don't know when that happens, and I'm not going to worry too much about it. Let's say they switch back here. And so she was in Jack's seat during this time, and she was in her own seat during this time. Okay, so now I have the switching under control. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to label my 3 sections. So A, B, and C. Okay. And so here, what do I know? Okay, I know that together, it's got to be the full length of the flight, A, B, and C. Okay, they're going to give me a ratio that represents 2 of them. And I know that the first third of the flight, that this section A is 1/3 of the total flight time. Okay, so that's what I know. Let's go back and see what we can put on here. So let's focus in on this part first. So the flight was 1 hour and 57 minutes long. So if we convert that to minutes so that we're all in one time unit, so you're taking 60 plus 57 minutes gives us 111 minutes. So the total flight, is 117 minutes. Okay. And we know that section A is 1/3 of the total flight. So if we take 1/3 of that, so divide your 117 by 3, that gives us 39 minutes. So we know that part A is 39 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and put that in a box because that's something that we've identified specifically. Okay. That leaves just B and C together. So how many minutes do I have left? So for B and C, let me do it the other way. So B and C together, whatever's left, so 117 minus 39 gives us 78 minutes left for B and C. We also then know that the time she spent in her own seat at the end of the flight is 1/5 the time she spent in Jack's seat. Okay, so we're going to pull out our ratio here. So the given ratio is 1/5. And it's comparing the time she spent in her own seat at the end of the flight. Okay, that's part C. So that's comparing C. Oh, so my drawing's not very well to scale. 1/5 of the time she spent in Jack's seat. So the 5 is Jack's seat, which is part B. And that's what I'm going to set up next. So now I'm going to go ahead and set up my boxes. So for part C and part B, we have 1 box for part C and 5 parts for B. Sorry about that. There we go. And then all total, give myself some room here. Sorry about that. All total, this is 6 boxes for B and C together. And right here, we know that together B and C have to be 78 minutes. And then if we go ahead and divide that out, we get that each box, divide both sides by 6 for an equivalent ratio, gives us 13 minutes. And so that 1 box also represents part C. So part C is 13 minutes. And then we need to get part B. So part B is 5 boxes. So if I take my 13 times 5, that gives us 65 minutes. Okay, that gives us all 3 pieces. So the question is, how long did she spend in her own seat, including both times? So we know that she was in her seat for both part A and part C. And during part B, she was in Jack's seat. So we're going to add up A and C together. So to answer the final question, A plus C is your 39 minutes plus your 13 minutes for a total time of 52 minutes. And then you'd put your answer then in a complete sentence. Okay.